sitting here with Larry Nims, who is the founder of Be Set Free Fast, and he's so wonderful to give me some time to talk about Be Set Free Fast, and just a wonderful person, so warm and loving. And I just so appreciate getting to know you and taking time to talk about Be Set Free Fast and yourself a little bit. So if you would mind just telling us, how did Be Set Free Fast develop? How did you come up with that?
Okay.
And what is it?
Hello, everyone. I'm a psychologist for 50 years now, and excuse me. And I just finished lunch, and it's a little leftovers. I've been working in the field of psychology in various different ways, from university teaching to being a clinician for a long, long time. And I got very, very frustrated with all of the many, many methods I learned to try to help people better. And when I kept seeing over and over again that none of the methods, even combinations, would not completely eliminate all of the problems that people had. And so very, very often people they'd give up, they'd get tired of going through all the emotional reliving of things and all the things we knew to do. They would not be able to afford to continue anymore. And so very, very often I would learn that they would come crashing down again later, that what we had done didn't hold. It was nice when we were doing it. The therapeutic relationship was helpful in and of itself, you know. That is a very important part of counseling and therapy. But it just wouldn't get the job completely done. And I was just very, very frustrated with that. I'm a very practical person, and I want to really be helpful. And it wasn't happening, and I got very, very sad about that, really heartsick about it. So much so that at one point, I actually stopped doing counseling because it was so painful for me to see that. Even though I was considered to be a good counselor, and people liked me and all of that, but that wasn't sufficient for me by any means. So that accumulated for a long time. I didn't have any of this kind of thing to help me deal with my distress. So at one point I actually stopped counseling. But then what was it, about 1988, someone introduced me to Dr. Callahan's book, The 5-Minute Phobia Cure. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated with it, thought it was pretty amazing. But I didn't use it right away because I thought it was pretty weird, and if I used it with a client and it didn't work, then I'd look like a total idiot as a professional. So I didn't use it. Until months later, I realized I needed to use it on me about my fear of using it with clients. And so I did that, and then I did it with 2 different people. It worked so well, it was so powerful on both of these people that were dealing with some phobias. And that frightened me because I wasn't sure where the power was coming from. And as a Christian, and having been involved in a lot of occult practices before I became a Christian, at about 47 years old, I was afraid of that I'd be using the wrong power.
And what was that technique, in case people don't know?
It was Callahan's first book about his material before he started doing training. It's a couple, tapping. It was a couple of years before he actually started training people and announced his training. In fact, I was the first psychologist that he trained.
Okay.
So I was just getting very disappointed and sad about not really being able to help people really fully effectively. And so I started praying to God, to show me a better way. And it wasn't just in the summer of 1989 in particular. All summer long I prayed as fervently as I've ever prayed about anything, all summer. And I wasn't just asking him to show me a better way. I was saying, you've got to show me a better way. I can't stand this. There's too much pain out there. We do not have effective help. We need better help for people. You've got to show me a better way. Right. And so the following, in October of '89, I was attending a conference of the ministers in the denomination I'm ordained in as a Christian minister. And there was a prophet there who happens to be the attorney for the denomination who hears from God for people, and he was doing that for a lot of us. And it's on tape. I have a copy of a transcription on my computer, which is really nice. And I refer to it once in a while, and it's very encouraging. It was clear that he knew a lot about my life and what I'd been through, which was an enormous amount of suffering in the first 40 years of my life, including being severely suicidal and 3 serious suicide attempts. In each case, I had it all planned out. I was executing it and backed away at the very last instant.
Oh my goodness!
Three
How old?
different times. I was over 40 when the last time. But I was suicidal from the time I was like in junior high. I belonged in a psychiatric hospital then, but in my family you don't do that. You just keep going. I realized I just needed to stop doing that. I clearly having been trained all through graduate school to be a researcher, a scientist. I didn't get in the clinical field until after I got out of school, because I was afraid to look inside myself, because I knew I was a worthless, no good person. And I couldn't even look anybody in the eye, because I knew if they looked in my eye, they'd see how terrible, awful person I was, and I'd be judged and rejected. And all that. I was totally messed up. Very depressed, anxious, bitter, critical, hostile. I was good at it. and I was, of course, I call myself a recovering perfectionist now, because I was very perfectionistic, driven by that, which I learned later is driven by trying to avoid criticism, judgment, and rejection. And anyway, so what I did was he prophesied that I shouldn't think about slowing down, that he'd been with me all this time, and that for the next 22 years, the Lord said to me through him, you will be doing deliverance counseling, a term I never knew, didn't know what that meant at that time. I knew a lot about deliverance ministry because I had been very well versed and trained in spiritual warfare and had actually participated in some deliverance ministry work and taken authority over the dark side, and demon spirits and that sort of thing, and had confidence about that. But I had told God specifically, I don't want to be a deliverance minister. And he hasn't busted me on that, which I appreciate. But he said deliverance counseling. I didn't know what it meant. In fact, it took me about 2 years later before I finally realized what that was, and I'll tell you about that perhaps in a moment. But and he said that you would be teaching on it and writing on it nationally and internationally for the next 22 years. Well, that 22 years was up about 3 years ago in October, but last October. And this is what, we're at 2014 now, in May. So, last day of May, okay. Anyway, so I said, okay, Lord, okay. And then he brought my attention back to Callahan's book. And I was still spooked by it. So I was hesitant about that, and I believe very strongly in the injunction in the scriptures, both in the Old and the New Testament, to let everything be established in the mouth of 2 or more witnesses. In other words, confirmations.
Right.
First of all, it needs to agree with what the Word of God says, and then maybe what the Holy Spirit may be communicating, but also other sources and ways He has a way of confirming it.
Right.
For me, it took about 22 confirmations before I finally decided to do Callahan's training. So I just sought out godly counsel from people I respected. My dearest friend is the head of my denomination, and Philip Rasmussen. You'll hear about him sometime before too long, I think.
Great.
The Lord has some amazing things in line for him. But anyway, and then I kept getting, yeah, it's okay to do this weird thing, you know. There's nothing wrong with the method, the idea itself. Just give God the glory and not yourself. And I said, well, I can do that. And I guarded that very carefully, because if I didn't, I know he'd take it away from me, and I'm having way too much fun allow that to happen.
Right.
It's so rewarding. So I called up Dr. Callahan, and in late '89, he came out with his first announcement in the California State Psychology newsletter, where I'd been in practice for a long, long time, and that he was going to do training in his method. And I called him up. He wanted $2,500 for his training. And I thought, oh, that's a lot of money to me then. Still would be. So I didn't do it right away, and I kept praying and asking people, and kept getting, yeah, it's all right to do it. So a few weeks later, I called him back. Now he wanted $5,000 for his training. Oh. That was his orientation. He ultimately started charging $10,000 for it. then went back to 5,000 when that didn't work so well. But anyway, bless his heart, he's gone now in the last couple of years, but he made an amazing contribution to our field. Just was a very innovative thing that got started. He was doing all the tapping thing. He called his thing at that time thought field therapy. It's still called TFT, thought field therapy. Right. And so I started the training in February of 1990. So I'm the first psychologist, and really I think the first person to be formally trained. And I'm also the oldest person in the field.
In the field?
Age-wise, in energy psychology. What became energy psychology called that, and I was actively participating in creating that name at the time, and a founding member of ASAP, the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. So I've been around a long time.
You're a giant in the field.
Well, I don't know about a giant, I'm just a little fella, but anyway, what I am, he made, it's all his fault.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't create me, and I didn't make my brain or any of this stuff. It all came from him, and I know that. Appreciate it so much. He's remarkable, just wonderful. I'm going to keep him. He's doing a pretty good job of keeping me.
That's right.
And anyway, so I'm very strongly spiritually oriented that way from a Christian perspective. But what I do fits anything, because it's the way he made us.
Right.
And now he finally revealed in our field, finally to me of all people, that we could do this, that this is how we're made, this is where the problems are created and maintained in programming in our subconscious mind. And we never knew that before in the field before, and therefore we could never completely get rid of the whole problem or the whole issue. Just couldn't do it before in any of our methods. And now we can do it very, very simply. And like so many things in any area of development, any area of science or any other area of development, when you find out the deeper principles, it lends itself to simpler application. And that's what happened here. And so that's what I've been so blessed to be able to share with people all over the world. And so I got the training with him. It was mostly over the telephone and reading his books and his book and his listening to his tapes and that kind of thing, and talking about cases and that kind of thing. And it wasn't very extensive training, but it was all I needed. But I never believed his theory that the acupuncture meridians were what were causing the problem.
Okay.
I didn't doubt that they were involved, and I understood the concept already, which was widely held already in psychology, that if you interrupt the pattern at some point, it often sets the opportunity for change to take place. But it certainly doesn't guarantee it. And so I was okay about that. I just didn't believe it. So I very, very quickly dropped out a major chunk of his treatment method and worked just as well, which was, again, some confirmation that it really wasn't the meridians. And eventually I got to where I was just having people just imagine doing the tapping and just thinking their treatment statements that he had created, and that worked just as well. And so, and I kept praying to God, say, show me more about this, show me more about this. And he taught me a really powerful lesson there. It's really a good one to keep in mind in prayer too, for in your prayers, in the way you use your prayer. I prayed for many years, show me more about this, and he would show me some more, and he would give me insights about what was going on with the client, and I was really fortunate that I was well experienced with muscle testing, so I used that as a confirmation a lot for what was coming into my head. It seemed to be totally unrelated to what we might be working with, and I just muscle test on myself to see if it was true, and if it was, I'd check it on muscle test on the person, and so that they would know that that's something needed to be eliminated, and so we would treat it accordingly. And it was very successful that way. But after several years, he kind of busted me on that prayer and showed me that that prayer was limiting him and me both as to how much he could show me. Because show me more has an implied limitation on how much he could show me. And I got the message, and I immediately changed the prayer to show me more about this, to show me everything about it. And then the floodgates opened. Because now I was open to all kinds of things that I could only accept a little bit at a time before that. And I was certainly great at limiting what I could accept, because, you know, I was still growing and learning and all of that. So anyway, that was a pretty exciting thing. After about 2 years of doing this, still doing the tapping thing, I realized deliverance counseling meant setting the captives free. Setting people free, setting their souls free. Because what actually is happening when you use your cue word to signal your subconscious mind that you intend for it to eliminate all the unresolved emotions from past experiences and the belief that are working together to cause you to automatically react and not have any free choice at all. It sets you free from the mental and the emotional problems that have locked up your free will. So you're really basically in captivity or in bondage to that particular issue, that programming. So,
How did you
and the
come-
soul is considered to be the mind, the emotions, and the will. So you're setting a piece of your soul free every time you use your cue.
How did you come up with the idea of the Q word and that it was the subconscious,
Well,
which became...
I was
these
working
things?
with people a lot, and I had it down to a very, very thing, and all of a sudden, God just gave me the insight. I was working with a client, just gave me the insight that I could give an instruction to the subconscious mind and use a cue word, and that the subconscious mind would do the treatment. It just gave it to me as a flash. And when that came, he also gave me a cue word, which is the predominant one I use, though I have about 35 of them I can use, and interchangeably, but I mostly use the first one that he gave me, which was God is, which meant to me at the time, to receive anything from God, it's in the book of Hebrews, to receive anything from God, you must believe in God, you must first believe in God, and that He's a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. So it was God is, and that's the word I mostly use, almost just automatically now, for anything that shows up. And so I, as I often did, whenever I learned something new about it, I would try it out on myself for a while first, and then I would use it on some of my clients who I knew would trust me to try this new strange thing, and to confirm that it really was working, and then I would just use it very broadly after that. And so it's just been a gradual process of developing that. For the last 9 years, almost 10 years now, probably late 1998 actually, it's longer than that I guess, that I haven't done any tapping at all. Don't usually. So I've gone way away from what's traditionally called now energy psychology. I'm really working with the energy of thought, which is really the highest level of our energy in humans anyway, beyond the spiritual level. And so that's what I've been doing for a long time now. And I use it routinely on myself when something bugs me, that kind of thing. Though not so many things bug me anymore, because they're just not there to bug me anymore.
Right.
And so it makes life a lot more fun.
And that method you named Be Set Free Fast.
I named it Be Set Free Fast, which is really an acronym. All of those letters in Be Set Free Fast have a word attached to them. It stands for Behavioral and Emotional Symptom Elimination Training for Resolving Excess Emotion, Fear, Anger, Sadness, and Trauma. Which was fun creating that. I give him the credit anyway. People get uptight when I start talking about this coming from God, so when they get restless, I stop and say, now wait a minute. I didn't create me, and you didn't create you, and I didn't create this mind. You know, I didn't figure these things out. Left to my own devices, I can mess it up as much as anybody.
Right.
And so I give God the credit, and He lets me have the cash. It's a very nice arrangement. Very nice arrangement. I wish I had the courage to ask for more cash, but anyway, I'm still working on that one.
So you developed this method, Be Set Free Fast, and then started training people in it.
Yes, it was quite a while before I started training. I just worked on it alone in my office for about 7 years. And then God had some psychologists from New York City, Brooklyn, call me and ask me, was it worth $10,000 to take Callahan's training? And I said, well, it's good stuff, but you'd be better off taking it from me because I've gone well beyond it. She didn't take me up on that, which is fine, but I said, how did you find out about me? Well, I saw your testimonial to Callahan's work in Gary Craig's book. I said, well, who's Gary Craig? And so she told me about Gary and EFT, and he had a book and so on, and I asked her for his phone number, and I called him up, and we made contact, and hit it off really well. He was very gracious. We had exchanged emails and phone calls for several months, and then he very graciously invited me to come and be one of the presenters of our methodologies when he brought all these people from around the world together at his expense, very graciously. He even paid for my room and board, by the way, because I didn't have much money in those days. And it was just, he was very, very kind. And and he paid for all that, 3 professional cameras, and had it all taped. And then he edited the whole thing down into 13 VCRs, which he then distributed freely around the world, and that got me on the map. But up to that time, I had not presented it to a professional group.
And Gary Craig was trained then by Callahan, and then
15 months after I was.
and then developed emotional freedom technique,
Yes,
or EFT, which
yes.
is another energy psych
Yes.
method.
But within 2 or 3 months, before Gary was even trained by Callahan, I was doing a shorter method of his method that was even more efficient than the current EFT program now. But then I just never quite believed the theory, so I kept looking and praying, asking for guidance to see what's really going on. And finally got to where I have been now for many, many years, since, well, 1998, late 98 actually. But it was in February of 98 that Gary Craig had this conference, and then many months afterward, because it took him a long time, there were really 2-3 day conferences that he sponsored. And he gave me a first afternoon of the second conference to do my thing. I was going to do an hour and a half, I thought, and a demonstration and work with the group a little bit, and then somebody else would do it. But they were responding so well, he just let me take the whole afternoon. So it was wonderful, and then people just swarmed up afterward, wanting to know more, write a book, all kinds of things. Want me to write out what the step-by-step procedure was and all that. I never done any of that stuff. I just been working alone developing it.
And what you developed was, you're given the insight that if you just involve the subconscious mind and give it a word to prompt it, it would clear out.
It would simply eliminate the programming that had been put in there without our permission or our awareness at all.
What we absorb.
Over the years, from all the negativity messages coming in verbally and non-verbally, and our culture is loaded with it, and we get them, especially from powerful authority figures, but also siblings and peers, and all kinds of things. We're embedded in all kinds of, our language system is negative so much. You get a compliment, say, "Oh, this old thing," or say, you did a great job. Well, it wasn't too bad. It's all that negative stuff. And then a lot of qualifying things, maybe, perhaps, if, probability, that kind of, I call them weasel words, because they don't take any strong position. They're not clean language. Anyway, so I just had great fun doing it, and it's just so, and I love training. I really love training. And I thought that this conference would be my last training, but now 3 of the trainers have come forward and say, "We'll do all the arranging, you just show up." That I might be able to do. It's getting hard because I am legally blind now with macular degeneration, and I've lost my central vision in my right eye, and the left one is going fast. But I'll have peripheral vision. I can rotate around, but it's not so easy anymore. I'll soon not be able to read at all.
So what results did you see using Be Set Free Fast?
What results?
Yeah, what results did you see with people?
Oh, well,
Again, with
first of all, they're in awe of what happens, how they just notice a virtual immediate change when they do the treatment. In almost all cases, they'll notice it, whether it was a tension or pressure in their body, or some negative thinking, or an unpleasant emotion, or any combination of those things. And just very, very quickly, it won't be there anymore. And that's pretty fun, and I would typically use muscle testing with them to show them, before we do the treatment, what's going on, and then afterward to show them that there's a specific direct way for them to recognize the change, as well as what they may perceive themselves. And it also helps them to develop more awareness of what they're experiencing by getting that immediate feedback. So, and it has developed my intuition a lot, because I get, through the muscle testing, I get immediate feedback when I'm correct or not. And that really helped to develop my intuition as well.
So now you had a method to really help people rapidly, quickly,
and
effectively.
completely. That's the most
completely.
important thing that we could not do before. No method that we have now that I'm aware of at all, anywhere, could do it completely until we knew what the real source of the problems is, which is in the subconscious mind programming, much like a computer programming, and you use your cue word, which signals your intention to your subconscious mind, that it will eliminate that program. It's much like pushing a delete button on the computer, laptop,
Right.
And it just does it. And it's gentle. There's no emotional distress with it. A person might, when they're working on something, and treating something, some feelings may come up, related to it, but you simply use a cue word for those too until they're not there anymore. Now, if a person starts to cry, I let them cry for a little, because, I don't invalidate crying. God made us to cry, to relieve sadness, and sometimes cry for happiness also. That we're made that way. And when we don't do that, and when we don't shake and sweat when we're scared, and we don't shout and holler and be angry, and throw a tantrum, which is why all those unresolved emotions got stuck back in there, because it wasn't safe to do that. When we don't do that, we're living backwards from the way God designed us to do it. If we had been allowed to always completely release all of our attention and say what we were thinking and feeling, we wouldn't have these problems. They wouldn't have gotten developed.
And be supported in what we...
So when we don't do that, we're living backwards. And I like to remind people, live spelled backwards is E-V-I-L, and that's what it leads to. It's a fascinating idea. So I just worked with it and just developed it and just become more skillful at doing it, and I've had lots and lots of experience, of course, so I know out of experience a lot about what to do, but I also know a lot because God shows me, the Holy Spirit shows me a lot of times. So I don't have to work hard at it at all. In fact, people say, when they want to work with me, they say it's not work. It's easy. It's simple. It's easy. It turns out to be fun. And I say, what you want to do now is recognize that instead of having to run away from the problems, to use defense mechanisms or coping things to try to get around them or to try to minimize them or, quote, manage them, you eliminate them. They're not there to cope with or manage anymore. And that's really nice. And so it's just so rewarding and so fun. It's just fun because I want to help people. I want people to be free because I think it'll be a better world. And I trust that when people are free, you don't necessarily have to instill or install something new in there. We have natural inclinations to master our world, to expand and to grow. So when we don't have the blocks to do that, we spontaneously do that. So I trust that. You can build in new things. There are ways to do some of that. But trying to do it with positive thinking and traditional hypnosis, what you're doing is setting up little wars inside because you're putting in opposition to what the programming is in there, and the subconscious will always ultimately prevail. You can override that subconscious reaction temporarily, but not very long, and subconscious will reassert itself and do what it's been programmed to do. It's not our enemy, it's not our friend, it just does what it's told. I call it our faithful servant.
So, can you give an example of how Be Set Free Fast might, or has worked with someone who has come to
I can give you lots of examples. One of the things it does very easily is treat what we call simple phobias. They're not simple to the person experiencing them, but not the real complex ones like agoraphobia. That takes more than one treatment. But a phobia like a fear of snakes or water or mice or insects or bees or whatever it might be, or being afraid to speak in public, which is the most common phobia in most cultures, presenting ourselves to other people. They go away typically in one treatment, one use of the cue word. They just go away, and they're just not there anymore. Occasionally it might take 2 or 3 treatments, but very rarely. They just go away, often in fear of going over bridges or high places, or that kind of thing. That impulse when you're up in a high place to feel like you're going to jump over, well, that can be eliminated using one treatment. Yeah, and so those kinds of things, and I've treated all kinds of things like that. Things like particularly problems in relationships. Almost all of our problems come ultimately from something that's occurred in some relationship, particularly the significant relationships like parents or the powerful people who reared us, as siblings and authority figures, teachers, preachers, policemen, all of that, and our legal system. Our legal system is very negative, very demanding, and we automatically resist that because it really is coming from outside and violates us, our own personal integrity. So we have little wars going on about that kind of stuff all the time. But when you get that out of the way, they're doing what they're doing, but okay, that's what they're doing. And we don't react to it and don't say and do things that make more problems as well as traumatizing us. So And every time a problem that we do have is repeated, we have traumatized ourselves again. We actually added another problem on top of it, and another wound. So, in other words, whether it's our thinking or whether it's what we say. So it's there's almost nothing you cannot eliminate. Even many physical processes. I see physical pains go away just so easily, typically. And they can be chronic pains that have been around a long time with people. And the physical symptoms often that go with them go away too, because then the body is now free. It doesn't have programming that's stopping, that may have helped set up the problem in the first place, and maybe maintaining it, and might even be preventing medical interventions from really being fully effective, maybe only partially effective, but not fully. All programming that we didn't choose, had nothing to do with, and then also we treat on the other side all the distress we have about having the problem, so that we're not carrying that painful load anymore, and not tying up all that energy. Because one of the interesting things about this is every time you do a treatment, all of that unresolved energy, emotional energy from the past experiences that's tied to the particular belief system is now free to be used wherever it might be needed, and not bound up in that system of a belief and negative, primarily negative emotions. There could be extreme positive emotions mixed in there somewhere too, that throw us off balance as well.
In the one-day workshop that you just did before ASAP, it reminds me what you're saying of one of the women in the workshop whose back pain was gone after, I think she said 12 years that she's had the back pain,
Yes.
and it's never been gone before.
Yeah, it
And
was
that
constant,
day it was gone.
And I've seen that happen many times. It's really fun. I never wanted to be a real doctor, but it's really fun to be able to help with those physical things.
And how did Be Set Free Fast impact your life, your personal life?
Well, it really allowed me to be who I needed to be as a husband with my wife. We've been married 42 years now, and we absolutely adore each other and enjoy being with each other. It's just wonderful. And she is a remarkable person anyway, but and that's my unbiased opinion, of course. But, so it helped me that. It certainly has helped me in being a much more effective counselor. Help with people, help in my relationships. I'm very accepting of people. Pretty much was before, but what long ago I was so very judgmental and critical too. And I still occasionally do that, and so I treat myself when I notice it. I've programmed myself, deprogram myself, so to speak, to not be judgmental. So when I notice I do that, I immediately treat for that. And so I do that less and less now. That's pretty nice. So I don't carry that kind of tension, that kind of junk around anymore like that. And that's pretty nice. And it's nice for anybody as they make more progress in that. They just suddenly find life is better. And a lot of things, and one of the fascinating things that happens with people, they'll treat something that's been a problem for a long time and throw you way off balance and all that kind of thing, and distressed, and interfere with your clear thinking and effective, skillful planning and follow through and all of that. And now you don't have that there anymore, so you can see the present situation for what it really is instead of for what it's triggering from the past. And then you can, pretty much know automatically what's the best way to respond to it, which very often is no response is needed at all, instead of some negative reaction that makes things worse for you and for the other person that might be involved. And then what happens is that then when that kind of situation shows up again later, you just don't pay any attention to it, and then you suddenly realize sometime later, oh, I didn't react to that like I always used to. But you don't notice it at the time because there's not all that emotional distress to demand your attention anymore. It just isn't there. So that's pretty fun.
It's wonderful. Wonderful healing method.
It is really wonderful. I don't call it healing because that gets into a medical thing and you can get into problems with people don't want. So I don't call it healing. I call it a treatment or just setting people free.
Yeah,
So when I say treat something, what I'm really just saying, use your cue word to signal your intention to your subconscious mind to eliminate, neutralize, whatever term you want to use, make inoperative that entire program of unresolved emotions and a belief. And the subconscious does all the treatment, and it always does it instantly.
So-
It never does not do it, it always does it. Your cue word never wears out. You know, sometimes people think my cue word doesn't work anymore. No, that means something else has got coming up that's blocking. You just treat that block. You don't have to know what it is. You don't have to be able to explain it, to understand it, to diagnose it, to treat it effectively. All you have to do is consciously notice that it's happening and you don't want to keep it, so you tell your subconscious mind your cue word and it eliminates it.
So you have instructions to the subconscious mind for what you would like
One
to
time.
do. One time. That you
No
read.
trance, anything.
You just read that through,
You don't just hear it.
hear it,
Mhm.
and then you come up with the word.
Any words you want to use. I suggest it be something that's a word that has some positive meaning to you rather than something negative, although you could treat for the negativity of it, so it would be neutralized, but I suggest you use something that's positively meaningful to you.
And so when you say that cue word, the subconscious mind, that faithful servant, will eliminate.
Yeah, it knows, even if you haven't identified what you're treating, it knows what your conscious mind has recorded your whole life. All the information that's come in from internally and externally all your life. It's all there, including what you were just thinking now. And so it knows what prompted you to use your cue. It knows what you intend for it to treat, and that's what it'll treat for you.
And it will do that without, just on its own.
Yep.
Subconscious will
And
follow
maybe
through with those instructions.
Instantly. Always, instantly. Sometimes there's several things going on all at once, and you might need to treat each one of them. A lot of times, you can treat whole clusters of things all at once, like self-image, for example, which is a whole bunch of negative evaluations of who we are as a person, as a human being. But you can treat the whole bunch all at once. And typically with most people, there are between 1,500 and 2,000 different programs that are negative messages about who I am as a person. But they all go away in one treatment.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, same way with self-confidence, the same way with whether I like people or want to deal with people. Virtually everyone, when I muscle test them, will test, no, I don't like people, and yes, I don't want to deal with them. Same thing about, I don't like the world, don't want to deal with the world. Another one that's a big one that hardly anybody knew, I didn't know until God revealed it to me, and I treated it years ago in myself, tested on I want to live. And it says no for virtually everyone without fail, around the world. It's just a universal problem. At the subconscious level, not the conscious level necessarily, but at the subconscious level. And so it's limiting us in terms of really taking hold of our life. A corollary to that one is I don't embrace my life that I've been given. I mean, you like everything about your life, but if you don't embrace it, you know, but they'll also typically test on the statement, I don't want to live. They'll typically test no to that one, and they'll test yes to, or no to I want to live, and no to I don't want to live. So they're stuck in between as far as their life is concerned. And the way I like to put it is, as far as their life is concerned, they've got at the subconscious level, they got their feet planted firmly in midair. There's no solid foundation with their life that way. And so you get that out of the way, and now they're much better grounded about being alive and experiencing life. So that's pretty fun. That was a wonderful thing that God showed me a long time ago.
Helped a lot of people with Be Set
Yeah,
Free
oh,
Fast.
yes, it's so fun.
Amazing.
It's so fun.
How has Be Set Free Fast, how does it interface with your faith?
Well, how does it interface with my faith? Well, first of all, I believe that God created me, you know, and I also strongly believer in Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and that I am saved and I'll be with Him in eternity, and I'll enjoy sharing it with you. So I just know that's the way He created us, and that's glorious and amazing and awesome. You know, one of the Psalms, David's Psalm says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Fearfully doesn't mean scared, it really means awesome. And wonderfully made, and we really are. And we don't even come close to understanding what that all means, but when we think about ourselves and how we could be functioning the way we are, and how our body recovers from things and things like that, and how it functions, you know, all the systems of our body, the nervous system, the elimination system, you know, everything, it's just awesome. And our sensory systems, just amazing that they work at all, and that they work all in an integrated way. It's just absolutely amazing. And we're so far from understanding it. And it's so rewarding, you know, because I recognize that God has called me, and all of us really, to love each other, as to love our neighbors as ourselves. You know, that's the strongest commandment Jesus mentioned. And sometimes I'll tell people, don't you dare love me the way you're loving yourself. I'll just tease them about it, because they're having a bad attitude about themselves. But we clear that up through these kinds of things I've been saying. So I just know it all came from God, and He made us that way, and now He has revealed that. And I feel, it isn't that I feel special that He chose me to give this to the world. I'm in awe of that. I continue to be in awe of that, and just so thankful. Because that's what I wanted and what I needed, and I prayed for it, and He gave it to me. I didn't know what He was going to give me, but He did that, and it's been amazing, and just so fun to share with other people. It's really exciting and just so deeply meaningful and rewarding.
It really allows people to love themselves and others more freely.
Absolutely. And to get the junk out of the way that's interfering with that.
That blocks
the
us.
Judgment, the criticism, the anger, the hurts, the resentments, you know, the hostilities, the sadness and grief and loss, and shame and guilt, and all those things that just plague us all, because we've just been embedded in it for a lifetime. So everything is virtually game for anything that's any way disturbing or throwing us off balance, mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually, is fair game for treatment with this. And typically we'll respond to that. Now, there are things we need to do at the spiritual level as well. At the psychological level, at the root of every problem, at the psychological level, is fear, some kind of fear. And that fear seems to always be related to a concern or a preoccupation with self, which is called human pride. It's related to me in some way that I don't like. And I'm going to try to force it to be different and all that, and because I'm powerful enough to do that. I want to believe I am anyway, which is I've heard it called a myth belief. Not just a misbelief, a myth belief. And so it's related to that. And the two main issues about human pride are do I perceive that my needs are being met adequately and will be met adequately to my satisfaction? Or are they being threatened in some way? And the other dimension of that seems to be predominantly, will I be seen as being of great value and worth and adulated and aggrandized and valued, and bottom line, will I be seen like God? You know, that's what it boils down to, human pride. It's the same issue, same thing that the serpent did with Eve and Adam. You will be as God.
So how can people find out more about Be Set Free Fast?
Well, we do have seminars. Alfred does some in Europe, and there's another gal that does some over in Germany in particular, one of my trainers, and I've done lots of them over the years, and I don't know how much more I'm going to be doing because it's getting more challenging, but these guys have come forward and said they'll take care of the details, and I just need to show up. So I may be able to do more than I thought. I thought this would be my last experience of doing this training. I do phone and Skype sessions with people all over the world, and I can do surrogate muscle testing and know exactly what's going on with their subconscious, just as I do with somebody's arm when I'm sitting with them. And it's because there's an energy connection between everybody. We really are not an island at all. There's an energy connection, and I've learned how to, God has helped me learn how to tap into that and use that very effectively, so that helps. I do have a book. It's a little old now, but still has a lot of value in it. It's available both as a print copy and as a PDF download on my website. I also have a DVD that's 8 hours and 5 minutes of teaching and training material in which I work with 8 different people, doing treating sessions with them and talk about what we did and have follow-ups, what they experienced later and that kind of thing. It's a teaching and training thing, and if you get to the end of it, you'll hear me playing harmonica, which I love to do. And, then those are the primary ways right now. Alfred and I, I'm quite sure, are going to be doing another book. It's overdue that we get another book out with a lot more material in it also, as well as the basics. So, and I have a lot of materials that are on my website, and more I'm going to be putting on there, things I've written, much of which will be revised and be in the next book probably as well.
So if they look at Be Set Free Fast, they'll get hooked into your website and get all the information that they need.
Yeah.
And Alfred Heath is a trainer
Yeah.
that we work with also.
Yeah, he's terrific. He's really an amazing man. He came forward many years ago, went to one of my trainings, and really liked what happened, and I remember very little contact with him those years ago at that 3-day seminar, but he came forward and he's really liked it, and he's a bright guy. He knows a lot more treatment methods and things, a lot more of the intellectual kind of stuff about it than I do. He's just really amazing. That's just another gift from God.
Is there anything else, Larry, that you would like to mention, say?
Well, I certainly encourage everyone to use it. Oh, yeah, I really need to speak to this for my Christian brothers and sisters especially. A lot of people get spooked by this in religion because of religious training, or religious mistraining would be more accurate. They think, oh, this is weird voodoo stuff, and maybe it's New Age, or maybe it's from the devil, or that kind of stuff. And they throw out the baby with the bathwater. The same thing they complain about, people do about their religion. They throw out the baby with the bathwater. And there is something of great value here, and just simply something, a way God made us. And now He has revealed that. In this case, through me, He has revealed that to us to use to truly be set free. So now what we can do, instead of running away from our problems and trying to cope with them, or have defense mechanisms to try to keep distance from them, or whatever it might be, deny them, or explain them away, or whatever we do, we can begin to eagerly look forward to finding them. And I say, well, you're busted. I'm getting rid of you right now because I can now. So I never worry about what somebody presents to me, because I'll just have them treat it. So I don't have to think I have to be brilliant and figure out what's going on with them. And I like the muscle testing because I don't have to guess about it. I can just check it out. And also know when I'm done. So that makes it very efficient, which really appeals to my nature. I want to be efficient and practical and useful. And I want to help people be free. So the religious training, and I had lots of it. I had a lot of legalistic training growing up, which was so hard on me and really damaged me psychologically enormously. And so I had such a terrible self-image and no self-confidence. And I was afraid, very, very shy. I couldn't look anybody in the eye. When I was 40 years old, I couldn't look people in the eye. Even though by that time I was already considered to be a pretty good counselor. And people liked what I was doing. But I still couldn't look them in the eye. And then when I treated that, and I started looking people in the eye, and then people would complain, ooh, you're so intense, I feel like you're looking right through me. So I learned to avert my eyes frequently, so they didn't feel so trapped by my intense gaze, because I can be pretty intense. And so, but all of that legalistic training that you're really not of any worth, that you're an evil person, a bad person, but you've got to work very hard to earn the right for God to care about you or be involved in your life and all that kind of stuff. That's not true at all about God. God is only loving. He is just, which means He set up the way the rules of the world and life are to be, and when we violate them, there are consequences. And if we keep violating them, He'll set up the consequences sometimes. He will even take people out of the world if they really violate Him, consistently. But I don't think that happens a lot, but I think it does happen. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is just the way He made us, and now He has finally chosen to reveal that to us, to be shared with the world, so that more and more people can truly be set free. As we've all been given that great commission, go set the captives free, heal the sick, bind up the wounded, you know, even make the dead to live, which I haven't done, and I don't know if I will, but anyway. And knowing at the same time, He's loving us, He's there to help guide us. We just ask Him for wisdom when we need it, like He says in James 1:5. If you lack wisdom, ask me, I'll give it with no criticism, judgment, anything. I'll just give it to you. But hold fast to expecting me to do that, because if you don't, you'll waffle around like the waves of the sea and not be able to receive anything from me. So you trust Him to do that. I like what He says in the Amplified Bible, in Psalm, Proverbs 6, I think it is. He says, trust in the Lord, roll your works on the Lord, and He will cause your thoughts to be in agreement with His will. So shall your plans be established and succeed. Because there'll be plans that came from Him. So they're going to work. But you've got to trust in Him, which you have faith in Him, and hold fast to that. If you waffle around, you'll experience the waffling around and the torment of it and all that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing we do. There's another really nice parallel to that in Peter, where he says, I think it's 2 Peter, 1 Peter, I lose track of the addresses of these sometimes. I know quite a bit about what's in there, but I can't always remember the addresses. But he says, cast all your care on Him. In the Amplified Bible it says, cast all your care, all your worries, all your anxieties, once and for all on Him. For He cares for you lovingly and cares about you watchfully. Which is really neat to know. And then also in the Amplified Bible in Psalm 37, it says, there's really 5 parts here in this first few verses of Psalm 37, and verse 8 is really an important one too. But he says, trust in the Lord, which means have faith in Him, lean on, rely on, have faith in Him. Then delight also in Him, which means delight in who He is and how He does things. And know that they're going to be good and always for your good, and including consequences when we need it, chastisement if that's what He knows we need to get us back on track. And then it says, that then roll and repose each care of your load on Him. Same kind of idea as in Proverbs 6:3 and in Peter 5 or 7, I can't remember where it is anyway. Right after it says in Peter, be vigilant and watchful, because that enemy of yours is roaming around as a hungry lion seeking whom he can devour. It doesn't say in there, I wish it did, because he doesn't take coffee breaks, but to be at it all the time. Because he's always there trying to work on us. I'm convinced that it's the enemy in the dark, where he works, in our subconscious mind, that put all that programming in us. And he doesn't have to read our mind, he knows what's there, and he's masterful at manipulating it. That's you can call that a theory, but it makes sense to me. Because he works in the dark, and we're bringing it out in the light where you can know what's true and be set free. And I like that a lot. So trust in the Lord, delight also in Him, roll and repose each care of your load on Him. Roll and repose, that concept there comes from the Hebrews' experience. This is in the Old Testament. The Hebrews' experience of loading their camels. The burden bearer would have the load on his shoulders, and the camel would be down on his knees, and he'd roll the load back onto the camel's back. That's where that image comes from. The problem is we keep grabbing it back from the camel. And if we do, we carry it as long as we insist on it. You know, that little thing about footsteps, you know, about that Jesus said, you know, well, why weren't you there? The footsteps were here, and now they're not here. He says, well, that's when I was carrying you. But it also needs to say, that's when you allowed me to carry you. When you agreed with me to carry you. So, anyway, so it's trust in the Lord, delight also in Him, roll and repose each care of your Lord on Him, and then be still. Be still, like be still and know that I am God. And the last one is wait patiently on Him. Don't necessarily expect the answer to your prayer to come immediately. But He hears every prayer. He never forgets any of them. But it's a good idea to pray the same prayer again from time to time, so you stay mindful that there is a source for the answer to that prayer. So you stay open to it. And Paul is very strong in his writings about praying on every occasion and for everything, you know, and unceasingly. And anytime you talk to God, that's a prayer. And so when you're feeling threatened about something, pray. Someone once told me, do like the mother skunk says to her brood when danger threatens. She says, let us spray. It's good counsel. Let us spray. Okay.
I really want to thank you, Larry, because I am here today because of you. I was, searching for better methods too, and I wasn't sure about the whole energy psychology.
And that's all
thing.
God's leading. It's a
It
divine
is.
appointment.
It was a divine
I'm sure.
appointment when I discovered what you had written on the internet, just by divine appointment. No other explanation for that.
Yeah.
And at that point, when I read what you had wrote about your experiences and how you developed this method and how this method was helping really set people free, then I knew I had to do that.
That's wonderful.
So that was many years ago, and that's led me here today, and it's all because of that I had read what you've written.
It's all God's fault.
That's right.
He does it all. I just get to go along for the fun. And it is fun. It is really so deeply rewarding.
You've done so much in this field as far as, developing a method that really sets people free and helping to coin the whole energy psychology.
Yeah, well, it's gone well away from energy psychology as it's been historically defined now, because there's no dealing with energy circuits in the body and all that kind of stuff, chakras and those kind of things. People are doing things and they're getting some interesting and wonderful results. I did, and I was delighted when I first started using the thought field therapy, the TFT. I was delighted with the results I was getting compared to the traditional stuff. That was fun. I just didn't believe that it was the meridians, and I kept looking for what was going on. And it just got better and better, and then took a whole big leap away from all of that to dealing directly with where the stuff is created and maintained and activated. And that's in the programming in the subconscious mind.
I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, you're
to
certainly
sit
welcome.
and talk and-
Thank you, Lord.
Yes, thank you. Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I think you'll enjoy this. I have a standing prayer with God about clients coming to me. I have a prayer with God that says, Lord, bring me the people that I can help most and who will also bless me, because that's his way, to bless both parts. And keep all the rest of them away. And he seems to do that really well. So that's
It's a
pretty
wonderful
good.
prayer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. God bless you. Okay. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
So what is it that you're dealing with as you've not been able to?
I just have this fear of spiders that I've had since I can remember. And I can't, I can be in the same room with them, but as soon as they move or come towards me or just, I just get really scared.
What happens inside of you when that happens?
Just panic. I just feel,
And if panic is what for you?
just my heartbeat increases and I just get really nervous.
Do you get sweaty palms or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Shaky, it's quivering?
It depends how.
How strong it is.
Right.
If one landed on you, you'd really have one time.
Yeah.
And what have you done to try to deal with this before?
Like how my mom has said, I've been to two different energy psychologists who've tried to get rid of the fear, and it's just still there, and it's even, they've lessened the fear, but over time that has come back because I haven't, dealt with it.
That is one of the difficulties, because often so many of those other methods don't thoroughly get the job done. They do partially, but only to the degree that they have probably indirectly accessed the subconscious programming and the person's intention, but not directly. So this is just direct and very efficient that way. So think of one of the times when it was most traumatic for you, experience with spiders. Can you imagine yourself in that very situation right now, and what it's like for you? And as you tune into that now, as if it's there right now, that creature is there right now doing whatever it's doing, what do you experience inside?
Just the same kind of panic, just that I just want to get away from it.
Okay. And if you rated that on a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being overwhelming, impossible to tolerate, and 0 being not there at all, what would you say that number might be?
At that moment,
Yes.
it would probably be a 10.
Oh,
Like I just,
but
well, right now.
Right now. Tune into it as much as you
Probably-
can. and see.
Okay. Probably about like an 8.
Okay. Okay. Let me just use a muscle. Are you familiar with muscle testing?
Yes.
Okay. So we can just do this then. What I want you to do is just hold. And I'm going to test this. It's an 8.
No.
It's above an 8. Yes. Let's try this. It's a 9. Okay. It's a 10. No, it's a 9.
Yes.
But
Okay.
you're close, and
All right.
people typically are, but very often when we tune in, we're not so accustomed to doing that, and so sometimes it's very close to where we are, but may not be exact.
Mhm.
That's not crucial, but I just wanted to show you that for your own understanding
All right.
about this.
Mhm.
So don't worry about if you don't have it exactly, because what you want to do is get it down to where you can't find it at all.
Right.
And that's where we're going now.
Okay.
And have you chosen a cue word? Have you read the instructions or heard the instructions?
Um,
If not, I'll give them quickly to you.
We did one time, but this was many years ago,
Let-
and I
well-
did have a word.
Okay, well, it'll probably still work, but just
Okay.
as a precaution, let's just give you a quick and dirty instructions
Okay.
about it. Okay, now, Julie,
Mhm.
whenever you use your cue word now, you remember the cue word?
Yeah.
Okay, if you didn't, you could tell your subconscious another one, and you can use them interchangeably, but, and you have as many as you want. Don't make there's what word to use for what problem. I just mostly use the one I started with, and I use the second one I like too, which is Baruch Hashem, which I learned from my wife's Jewish family, which means in Hebrew, in ancient Hebrew, means bless the name, because they wouldn't say the name of God, so they refer to it as the name. So Baruch Hashem means bless the name, and I like that one too. But mostly I use God is. Okay, now, so when you use your cue word, every time you use it now, from now on, when you're intending to eliminate some problem you don't want, problem being a set of unresolved emotions from the past experiences that got buried because it wasn't safe to let them all out, or you weren't allowed to let them all out, and even taught to be terrified to let them out sometimes. Talk about terrorism. And so you couldn't, and they've accumulated, and groupings of those get connected to a belief that says you are to have this reaction in the presence of those creatures, in particular spiders and variations of that, whatever it might mean to your subconscious mind. And you didn't choose that, you had no choice about it, there was no way you could have ever prevented that from happening to you. You certainly didn't give permission for it. So all the criticism that you've been programmed to do for yourself about having that, and that you're somehow something wrong with you, or is not really appropriate, but it's highly programmed. But though each one of those negative attitudes toward yourself can also be eliminated with the use of your cue word. Very often, each one of them can be eliminated with just one use of the cue word. So anytime you find yourself putting yourself down about it, or why was I so dumb, or why was I so inadequate to get rid of it? Why didn't I benefit from the help people were offering? Why did I let them down? And all the junk, which is probably, most of it's probably operating in you, and the guilt you feel about it, and the shame about it, all of that stuff's treated. Oh, you don't have to keep it anymore. You just don't.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, it is wonderful. It's beyond wonderful, but it is wonderful. Okay, so now all I want you to do is tune into all of that again, please, as if you were in that same situation, and use your cue for all of that distress that causes you to experience, and the stress in your body and your thoughts, your emotions. And after you do that, check again now and stay tuned into it and see if that number has changed in there or not.
Yeah, I think it has.
And what would you say it is now?
I want to say 5.
5. That's good. We're moving.
Yeah.
Occasionally, sometimes it actually goes up because something else starts coming in too.
Right.
But that's fine. This is where we're headed.
Okay.
And now tune into it again and treat again for everything that's keep it from going all the way down to 0 where you can't even find it anymore, where it's totally neutral. In that same situation. And check in and see what that number might be now.
I think about 4.
Okay, let me check that. I'm curious about that. It is a 4? Yeah, okay. You're getting smarter. Okay, now, then let's tune in again and treat again. And we want to treat for everything that's left about that keeps it from being no problem at all, 0. Okay, let's check again. Well, what number would you say it is now? Any more change or not? We need to know either way.
I think it's about a 3.
Okay, let's check that. It's a 3? Yes? Oh, that's interesting. You're very loose now. Okay. Rice Krispies. Okay. That's a good cue word, by the way. Now, let's treat again, tune into it again, and treat again. And I'm going to ask you to do now. Notice it, consciously notice it, and use your cue. And then notice again and see if there's any more, and use your cue. And if there is more, use your cue, and keep noticing and treat. Consciously notice and treat, because that's what, and that, if you don't consciously notice it, the subconscious won't know what you're intending to treat. So you notice and treat. Do that now, and see if you can bring it all the way down. And we'll give you a little time to see what happens. How are you doing right now? What number would you give it now?
I think maybe a 2.
Okay, let me check something with you, and I'm a little suspicious about this, so we'll check it out. I don't have to just guess. I want to be completely free of this reaction to all spiders and any creatures like them. And it says no to that. That's what I was suspecting. Okay, use your cue for the programming that says, I don't want to be completely free of it.
Okay.
Use that now. I'll test you again, please. I want to be completely and permanently free of it. Yes. And I'm willing to be permanently free of it from now on. And that's also a no. Treat that, please. Okay. I'm willing to be permanently free of it from now on. And I give myself permission to be free of it from now on. That's a no. So these are things, I call this a fail-safe system. This is the term that came up. It's a backup system that's sometimes built in. It only shows up in about 10 or 15% of the problems, issues that we work on in our life. But it does show up in most everybody. I'm glad it did here because it's a useful thing for us to know about.
Right.
And to have it on camera too. So thank you for being so messed up.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.
Okay. I'm saying that kind of, I hope you know.
Yeah.
But I love to joke around and have
Yeah,
fun. Doesn't
yeah,
have to be
of
miserable.
course.
Constantly doesn't have to be miserable. It can be fun.
Right.
We're all just, at best, we're ambulatory neurotics, you know, which just means we got hang-ups, stuck places. That's all that really means. Okay, so now let's tune in again and, well, let's just check this one. I give myself full permission to be completely and permanently free of this. And now that says yes, you see, it's strong. Okay, and then it's okay for me to be permanently free of it. And that's also a no, so treat that problem. You didn't ask for any of this, it was done to you without you having any idea it was done, so it's not appropriate for you to give yourself a bad time about it.
Right.
And to treat anything that's doing that. It's a double whammy, it's like double jeopardy. You got the problem and now you got the problem about the problem.
Right.
Okay, and that's against the rules. Okay, it's okay for me to be permanently free of this from now on. Okay, and I deserve to be free of it? Yes, that one's fine. I'm willing to give up all the benefits I've gotten, even though I might not know about them, but all the benefits that I got out of having this problem all this time. Yes, you are. That's good. I'm also willing to have all the good benefits of being free of it from now on. That's a no. Receiving the good things is a big block in most people. That's a huge issue for most people. So you treat for that one. I mean, you'll receive all the good benefits of being free of it. Okay? I'm willing to see all the good benefits of being completely and permanently free of this phobic reaction about spiders and related creatures. And now it says yes. Now your subconscious is totally in agreement with that, will not block you from just enjoying it, being free of it. Okay? Now, let's try another one. I'll do everything necessary to see to it that I stay free of this phobia. And that's good too. That's about marshaling your own resources in yourself, which are enormously more than any of us realize, and all of us. We have so much more knowledge and information and experience that we don't access because of programming predominantly, that blocks us from accessing. But we've accumulated all kinds of information and knowledge and wisdom, well, observing things and experiences we've had and we've read and all that sort of thing. It's there, all there. Your whole life experience is there. And so your resources are readily available to help you to maintain this now. Okay, but there's some other things that could still be going on to get in the way. And this fail-safe has 12 different possible problems in it, this sequence, and they come pretty much in a hierarchical order, and that's the order in which we're treating them. But it's never all 12 of them. It's typically 6 to 10 or 11. Never all 12 for any, I've never seen it be all 12 on anything. And I've done hundreds of these, so probably more than that by now. Anyway, so the next one to check out is, I still have one or more problems, problem being a set of unresolved emotions and belief system. I still have one or more problems that will make me keep or take this phobic reaction back again. And that says yes. Now, we don't know how many we could test and see if we wanted to. I just tested for one or more to make sure we have all the possibilities. But you can treat them all at once, however many there were. Just so use your cue for that. And we'll test again. I still have one or more problems that would make me keep or take this phobic problem back again? No. Now another one is, there's still something in me that would make me keep or take this problem back again. And that's a yes, so whatever that something, one or more of them could be, you treat all of those, meaning using your cue. Your subconscious does the treatment for you. Okay, there's still something in me that would make me keep or take it back? No. See how it changes? When
Yeah,
the subconscious just gives it up just like that. Now, I call it our faithful servant. It just does this for us. And now the last one is this one. I'm vulnerable to taking this problem back again. That always says yes, and typically they're up towards 100, 150 vulnerability problems. It's huge in everybody, no matter what the issue seems to be. So now you just treat for all those vulnerability problems right now. There's one use of your cue. Okay, I'm still vulnerable to taking this problem back. Now that's enough. Now tune into that whole thing about that terrible experience again, or any others you think of, and see if it stirs you up at all anymore. If anything that's above a 0, then use your word for it until it goes to 0. Can you find any that stir you up at all?
I don't think so.
And I don't think so either, but I'm checking with you.
No, I don't.
So how are you doing?
Good.
Okay. That phobia is gone now. It's not operating inside of you anymore, and it won't.
That was the most calm I've ever felt thinking about that. It's really amazing.
Well, it is amazing because we didn't know this was possible, and especially that it could be this simple. But it is, because that's the way God made us, and now He's showed us that to help us to be set free.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
There's one thing that would be really helpful for us to do in finishing this, and that's what I call a closing sequence. That's 5 quick treatments.
Sorry, before you do the closing sequence, could you go over some other scenarios of spiders or maybe sensory things like this?
Yeah. Can you think of another problem, another time that you had a problem with spiders? And I'm going to see if it makes you weak or not. Can you think of one?
Yeah.
Oh, doesn't make you weak now. Can you think of another one? Can you? Hold. You see, it doesn't have that effect. It doesn't have that power over you anymore. You've taken your own personal power back, basically, here, about that whole issue. And that's what it does. Now, to finish, I have what I call a closing sequence. It's 5 separate treatments, each one usage of tube, so they go pretty quickly. But they are designed, and they're there for the specific purpose to help protect you from taking back the problem, to protect the progress that you made in the treatment. If we'd have done 101 treatments, or just what we did do, we'd just do the closing sequence for the whole bunch, not for every problem. We just do it at the end of a treatment session. So the first one is to treat for all of the traumatic stress that having this all these years and experiencing and re-experiencing it has caused you to experience, because that hangs like a cloud over us somehow. Okay? So you just, I would normally have you say all trauma and use your cue. So do that, so we'll make sure we've got it covered.
So we say all trauma?
All trauma and use your cue. And now, trauma is all gone, yes? All of it, yes. Okay, now, the next one is, and this is a little bit unsuspected, but when we're doing treatments, no matter what it seems to be, almost always there are people we were mad at, judging, criticizing, and being unforgiving toward, that we held accountable for having that problem, but we didn't identify them in the treatments. Fascinates me, and I don't understand this yet, but the anger, all the anger and the judgment and criticism that always goes with anger, get treated while we're doing the treatments that we're doing, but the unforgiveness does not. There's something about unforgiveness that needs to be dealt with directly somehow. And of course, Jesus really emphasized that very strongly, and so did the scriptures throughout, really. So what we do is just say, I forgive everybody and everything, and use your cue.
Say that?
I
forgive
everybody and everything, and then use your cue. And that will clear up all that unforgiveness that we didn't identify.
Okay.
Unforgiveness, anger always has judgment and criticism attached to it, and some related attitudes. But it's that judgment and criticism is what sets up and maintains the unforgiveness. So, and this is a misteaching in a lot of religious teaching, that you got to forgive. So that people work hard at forgive, not realizing that if they don't treat the anger, then the judgment and criticism that's attached to it has not been cleared up, and it'll keep recreating the unforgiveness. You've got to get rid of the anger and the judgment and criticism first in order to have the forgiveness to be permanent. You might, with a lot of effort, actually accomplish unforgiveness momentarily, but it won't last very long at all if you haven't cleared up the anger, judgment, and criticism connection. So that's why we do it in that order. Okay? Because that's the causal sequence. Okay, now let's do this. Well, I don't need to test you for this. The next part of the closing sequence is to treat what I call stoppers. And that's just a whole set of messages, programs really, in our subconscious that can interfere with having these things work, like doubting it's going to work, doubting your ability to use it, doubting that it's going to last, that it might work for other people but not for me, you know, what other ones go with that. But there's just a whole bunch of them. So in the basic instructions, I have not only, it'll treat any of the 9 that I listed in the instructions to the subconscious, but any other problem that acts like a stopper. But all you need to do is say all stoppers and use your cue.
Right now?
Please.
Okay, so all stoppers.
Okay, good. And that'll clear those. And then the last 2 are this. And I want to show you this one through the testing. I'm angry at myself for every problem I've treated here. And all the ones I treated with when I was trying to get help from other people. And that'll say yes to that. And I judge and criticize myself harshly for every one of them. And that'll say yes. Not just a little bit. It's harshly. It's always harshly. We're tough, programmed to be very tough on ourselves that way. But I'll forgive myself for at least one of those problems. And that'll say no. And that's the way it is for all of us in programming. It's there. When we're angry, judgment, criticism, it's harsh judgment, criticism, and we will not forgive ourselves for it. So now treat for all that anger, judgment, and criticism.
So for all that anger, judgment, and criticism.
You just say mad at myself or angry at myself and use your cue.
Mad at myself or angry at myself.
Yeah, you don't have to say both. Either one will work, whichever you prefer. Mad at myself or angry at myself. Now, I'm still mad at myself for at least one of those problems. And I no longer judge or criticize myself at all for any of them. But I'm still not about to forgive myself for any of them. And that'll still say yes also, because we haven't treated that yet.
Okay.
So now you just say, forgive myself, and use your cue.
Okay. Forgive myself.
Use your cue. Okay? I completely and permanently forgive myself for all of those problems. And that's a yes now. That's what it is.
That's amazing.
And we're done.
It's awesome. Well, thank you
It
so much.
is awesome.
Really
Awesome. We have an
appreciate
awesome
that.
God. He's awesome.
So
He made
Julie,
us this way. We are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
can you imagine a spider? I just wondered about
Yeah.
that for
Like
yourself.
Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a spider right now? Can you imagine one crawling up your foot and up your leg? What does that do? Cute little thing, and
I don't know, I'm pretty calm about it,
yeah,
actually.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are.
It's just so weird because, you know, I've had that like my whole life. It's just
Yeah,
really
yeah. You
different.
didn't choose it. You had no choice about it.
Yeah.
But now you don't need it anymore, and you don't have it anymore.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. It's your choice.
Thank you.
Okay.